It's 3 a.m., the power's out, and your stomach is growling louder than a bear in a thunderstorm. You open your pantry, and there it is, your stash of never-expiring foods, ready to save the day. Sounds like a superhero movie, right? Well, in real life, having a stockpile of long-lasting foods isn't just smart, it's essential. Whether it's a natural disaster, a global crisis, or just your lazy Sunday when you don't want to grocery shop, these foods are your ultimate backup plan. Let's start with the most obvious, but often overlooked item on any survival list: water. You can survive weeks without food, but only 3 days without water. That's why it's the #1 priority in any emergency situation. But here's the thing, while water itself doesn't expire, how you store it makes all the difference. First, let's talk containers. Not all water storage is created equal. Use FDA-approved plastic containers or BPA-free jugs to avoid chemical leaching. Glass containers are also a great option if you're worried about plastic. Store your water in a cool, dark place to prevent algae growth and keep it tasting fresh. But here's a pro tip: don't just stockpile water, purify it. Even if your water is stored properly, contamination can happen. Invest in a water purifier or portable filter to ensure you've got clean, drinkable water no matter what. Boiling water is another option, but it's not always practical in emergencies. Now let's get real. Water is heavy. Storing enough for long-term survival can be a challenge. A good rule of thumb is to have 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and sanitation. For a family of 4, that's 120 gallons for a month. Sounds like a lot, but trust me, you'll thank yourself later. Here's a shocking fact. According to the World Health Organization, 2.2 billion people worldwide don't have access to safely managed drinking water. That's why having your own supply is so crucial. 2. Salt, the survival superstar. Let's talk about salt. Yes, the same stuff you sprinkle on your fries and accidentally knock over at dinner. But here's the twist. Salt isn't just a kitchen staple, it's a survival superstar. Imagine you're stranded on a deserted island, or, let's be real, just forgot to go grocery shopping. Salt could literally save your life. Why? For starters, your body needs salt to function. It helps regulate fluids, keeps your muscles working, and even prevents dehydration. But salt's talents don't stop there. It's also a natural preservative. Ever heard of curing meat or pickling vegetables? That's salt doing its magic. In a survival situation, it could mean the difference between fresh food and a science experiment gone wrong. Now, not all salts are created equal. Kosher salt and sea salt are your best bets for long-term storage. They're pure, simple, and don't contain additives like iodine, which can break down over time. Iodized salt? It's great for your thyroid, but not so great for your apocalypse pantry. Store your salt in airtight containers to keep it dry and clump-free. Because let's face it, trying to grind a salt brick is not how you want to spend your survival energy. Whether you're prepping for the end of the world or just want to be ready for the next snowstorm, salt is a must-have. It's cheap, it lasts forever, and it's way more useful than you'd think. So, next time you're at the store, grab an extra container. Your future self and your taste buds will thank you. 3. Honey. Picture this. You're in your kitchen, and you find a jar of honey that's been sitting in the back of your pantry since, well, you can't even remember. You open it, and it's still perfect. No mold, no weird smells, just sweet, golden goodness. That's the magic of honey. It's not just a delicious treat. It's nature's liquid gold, and one of the few foods that literally never spoils. Here's why honey is a survival essential. It's a natural preservative with antibacterial properties. Archaeologists have found pots of honey in ancient Egyptian tombs that are over 3,000 years old and still edible. Though I wouldn't recommend taste testing that one. Honey's low moisture content and acidic pH make it impossible for bacteria and microorganisms to survive. So, while your bread might turn into a science experiment after a week, honey stays pristine. But wait, there's more. Honey isn't just for drizzling on your pancakes. It's a natural remedy for sore throats, cuts, and burns. Got a scratch? Dab some honey on it. Feeling under the weather? A spoonful of honey in your tea can work wonders. It's like having a first aid kit and a dessert all in one jar. Now, if your honey crystallizes, which it often does, don't panic. It's not spoiled. Just gently warm it up, and it'll return to its smooth, liquid form. Store it in a cool, dark place in a tightly sealed container, and it'll last forever. 4. Sugar, the sweet savior. Let's be honest, sugar gets a bad rap these days. It's blamed for everything from cavities to couch potato syndrome. But here's the thing, when it comes to long-term survival, sugar is a total hero. Think of it as the sweet savior of your pantry. Why? Because sugar isn't just for satisfying your sweet tooth. It's a natural preservative. Ever made jam or jelly? That's sugar working its magic, locking in flavor and keeping bacteria at bay. In a survival scenario, Sugar could help you preserve fruits, make syrups, or even create homemade energy bars. Plus, it's packed with calories, which you'll need if you're rationing food during an emergency. But here's the kicker. Sugar doesn't spoil. If stored properly in airtight containers to keep out moisture and pests, it can last indefinitely. That means the bag of sugar sitting in your cupboard right now could still be good decades from now. Imagine explaining that to your grandkids. This sugar is older than your dad. Now, let's talk about the fun stuff. Sugar isn't just practical, it's comforting. A spoonful of sugar in your coffee or tea can brighten even the gloomiest day. And let's not forget its role in baking. Survival doesn't mean you have to live on bland, boring food. With sugar, you can whip up cookies, cakes, or even homemade candy. Who says the apocalypse can't have dessert? Whether you're prepping for a disaster or just want to sweeten your morning coffee, sugar is a must-have. It's versatile, long-lasting, and downright delicious. So, next time you're at the store, grab an extra bag. Your future self and your sweet tooth will thank you. 5. Pure maple syrup, the indestructible sweetener. Alright, let's talk about pure maple syrup, the fancy cousin of honey and sugar. You might think of it as just a topping for pancakes, but this stuff is a survival powerhouse. Unlike its artificial, corn syrup-based imitations, pure maple syrup is the real deal. It's natural, delicious, and get this, it never spoils. Here's the science behind it. Pure maple syrup has a low water content and high sugar concentration, which makes it resistant to microbial growth. That means no bacteria, no mold, and no weird smells. If you see a bit of mold on the surface, don't panic. Just skim it off, strain the syrup, and give it a quick boil. Good as new. But maple syrup isn't just a sweet treat. It's packed with antioxidants and minerals like manganese and zinc, making it a healthier alternative to refined sugar. Plus, it's incredibly versatile. Use it to sweeten your oatmeal, glaze roasted vegetables, or even make homemade energy gels for hiking. In a survival situation, it's a quick source of energy and a morale booster. Who wouldn't feel better after a drizzle of maple syrup on their hardtack? Now let's talk storage. Keep your maple syrup in a cool, dark place in a tightly sealed container. Glass bottles are ideal because they don't absorb odors or flavors. And if you're really serious about long-term storage, consider stocking up in smaller containers. That way, you're not constantly opening and exposing the entire supply to air. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a natural sweetener that lasts forever, pure maple syrup is a must-have. It's delicious, nutritious, and indestructible. So go ahead, stock up and sweeten your survival stash. 6. Dried beans. Let's talk about dried beans, the unsung heroes of the pantry. They might not look glamorous, but these little guys are a survival essential. Packed with protein, fiber, and essential nutrients, dried beans are like the gym bros of the food world. Strong, reliable, and always there when you need them. Here's the best part. Dried beans can last for decades if stored properly. Keep them in airtight containers or Mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and they'll stay good long after your favorite snacks have turned to dust. Sure, they might harden over time, but a little soaking and cooking will bring them back to life. Think of them as the phoenix of the food world, rising from the pantry ashes to save your dinner. But why are dried beans such a big deal? For starters, they're incredibly versatile. You can make soups, stews, chili, or even bean burgers. In a survival situation, they're a sustainable food source that can keep you full and energized. Plus, they're cheap. A bag of dried beans costs less than a latte but can feed you for days. And let's not forget the humor in beans. Yes, they're known for their, musical side effects. But in a survival scenario, who's going to judge? You'll be too busy enjoying a hearty, nutritious meal to care. Whether you're prepping for a disaster or just want a budget-friendly pantry staple, dried beans are a must-have. They're nutritious, long-lasting, and endlessly versatile. So, stock up and let these little powerhouses fuel your survival journey. 7. Pasta and ramen noodles. Let's be real. When life gets tough, nothing hits the spot like a big bowl of pasta or a steaming cup of ramen noodles. These aren't just college dorm staples, they're survival essentials. Whether you're facing a power outage, a snowstorm, or just a really bad day, pasta and ramen are here to save the meal. Here's why they're pantry superstars. Both have an incredibly long shelf life. Dry pasta can last for years if stored in a cool, dry place, and ramen noodles? Well, they're practically indestructible. Seriously, have you ever seen expired ramen? Me neither. They're lightweight, easy to cook, and require minimal ingredients. Just add water, and you've got a meal. But let's talk about versatility. Pasta can be dressed up with canned tomatoes, olive oil, or even just butter and cheese. Ramen, on the other hand, is a blank canvas. Add some dried veggies, an egg, or a spoonful of peanut butter, and you've got a gourmet survival dish. Who knew the apocalypse could taste so good? Now, here's a pro tip. Store your pasta and ramen in airtight containers to keep out moisture and pests. And if you're feeling fancy, invest in some whole grain pasta for an extra nutrient boost. Here's a fun fact. Ramen noodles were invented in Japan in the 1950s and quickly became a global phenomenon. There's even a ramen museum in Yokohama dedicated to this humble dish. So, when you're slurping down a bowl of ramen, you're not just eating, you're part of a cultural legacy. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just craving some comfort food, pasta and ramen are must-haves. They're affordable, easy to store, and endlessly customizable. So, stock up and let these comfort food champions keep you full and happy, no matter what life throws your way. 8. Rolled oats. Let's talk about rolled oats, the humble, wholesome, and incredibly underrated hero of the pantry. Sure, they might not have the glamour of a croissant or the excitement of a breakfast burrito, but when it comes to long-term survival, rolled oats are the breakfast of champions. Here's why. Rolled oats are packed with fiber, protein, and essential nutrients like magnesium and iron. They're not just filling, they're good for you. And the best part? They have a shelf life of up to 30 years if stored properly. Keep them in airtight containers in a cool, dry place, and they'll be ready to fuel your mornings for decades to come. But rolled oats aren't just for breakfast. They're incredibly versatile. You can use them to make oatmeal, granola, energy bars, or even thicken soups and stews. In a survival situation, they're a comfort food that can boost morale and keep you going. Imagine waking up to a warm bowl of oatmeal on a cold, chaotic morning. It's like a hug for your stomach. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Plain oats can be a little bland. But that's where creativity comes in. Add some honey, dried fruit, or a sprinkle of cinnamon, and suddenly you've got a gourmet meal. And if you're feeling adventurous, try making oat flour by grinding them up. It's perfect for baking bread or pancakes when fresh ingredients are scarce. Here's a fun fact. Oats have been a staple food for thousands of years. The ancient Romans and Greeks used them as both food and medicine. So when you're eating oats, you're basically channeling your inner gladiator. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a healthy, long-lasting pantry staple, rolled oats are a must-have. They're nutritious, versatile, and downright comforting. So, stock up and let these little powerhouses keep you fueled and ready for anything. 9. Lentils. Meat lentils, the small, unassuming legumes that pack a serious nutritional punch. These little guys are like the Clark Kent of the food world. They might look plain, but they're secretly superheroes. Packed with protein, fiber, and essential nutrients like iron and folate, lentils are a must-have for any survival pantry. Here's why they're so great. Lentils cook quickly compared to other dried beans and don't require soaking. In a survival situation, that's a game changer. Plus, they're incredibly versatile. You can make soups, stews, salads, or even lentil burgers. And if you're feeling fancy, try sprouting them for a fresh, crunchy addition to your meals. But the best part? Lentils have a shelf life of up to 10 years when stored properly. Keep them in airtight containers or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers, and they'll stay fresh and ready to use. They're also lightweight and easy to carry, making them perfect for bug-out bags or emergency kits. And let's not forget their sustainability. Lentils are nitrogen-fixing plants, which means they enrich the soil they grow in. If you're into gardening, you can even grow your own lentils for a self-sufficient food source. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a healthy, protein-packed pantry staple, lentils are a must-have. They're affordable, nutritious, and endlessly versatile. So, stock up and let these tiny but mighty legumes fuel your survival journey. 10. Powdered milk. Milk might not last long in the fridge, but powdered milk? That's a whole different story. This stuff is the dairy lifesaver of the survival world. Whether you're baking, cooking, or just craving a glass of milk, powdered milk has got you covered. Here's why it's a pantry essential. Powdered milk has a shelf life of up to 20 years when stored in a cool, dry place. It's lightweight, easy to store, and doesn't require refrigeration. Just add water, and you've got instant milk. It's not just for drinking either. Use it in recipes for pancakes, muffins, or even homemade yogurt. But let's be honest, powdered milk isn't exactly the same as fresh milk. It can taste a little different. But here's a pro tip. Mix it with a bit of vanilla extract or sugar to improve the flavor. Or use it in recipes where the taste won't be as noticeable, like soups or casseroles. And let's not forget its nutritional value. Powdered milk is rich in calcium, vitamin D, and protein, making it a great alternative to fresh milk in emergencies. It's also a key ingredient in many survival food kits. Whether you're prepping for a disaster or just want a reliable dairy option, powdered milk is a must-have. It's affordable, long-lasting, and incredibly versatile. So, stock up and let this dairy lifesaver keep you nourished and ready for anything. 11. Ghee. Let's talk about ghee, the fancy, clarified butter that's been a staple in Indian kitchens for centuries. But don't let its gourmet reputation fool you. Ghee is a survival superstar. Unlike regular butter, ghee has a shelf life of up to a year at room temperature and even longer if stored in a cool, dark place. That's because the milk solids and water have been removed, leaving behind pure, golden fat that resists spoilage. Here's why ghee is a must-have. It's incredibly versatile. Use it for cooking, frying, or even as a spread. It has a high smoke point, which means it won't burn easily, making it perfect for sautéing veggies or searing meat. Plus, it adds a rich, nutty flavor to everything it touches. In a survival situation, that's a game changer for turning bland meals into something delicious. But ghee isn't just about taste. It's also packed with healthy fats and fat-soluble vitamins like A, D, and E. It's even used in traditional medicine for its anti-inflammatory properties. So, when you're cooking with ghee, you're not just feeding your body, you're nourishing it. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a long-lasting cooking fat, ghee is a must-have. It's flavorful, nutritious, and indestructible. So, grab a jar or make your own, and let this golden goodness elevate your survival meals. 12. Hardtack. If you've ever watched a historical movie, you've probably seen hardtack, the rock-hard, flavorless crackers that soldiers and sailors survived on for months. But don't let its bland reputation fool you. Hardtack is a survival essential. Made from just flour, water, and sometimes salt, this durable food has a shelf life of decades. Here's why hardtack is a pantry must-have. It's lightweight, easy to store, and requires no refrigeration. It's also incredibly filling, making it a great source of calories in emergencies. Sure, it's not exactly gourmet, but when you're hungry, you won't care. Now, here's the catch. Hardtack is hard. Like, break your teeth hard. But that's where creativity comes in. Soak it in soup, coffee, or water to soften it up, or crumble it into stews for added texture. It's not glamorous, but it gets the job done. Here's a fun fact. Hardtack was a staple food for soldiers during the American Civil War. It was so durable that some pieces from the 1800s are still intact today. So, when you're munching on hardtack, you're basically eating history. Whether you're prepping for a disaster or just want a long-lasting survival food, hardtack is a must-have. It's simple, durable, and endlessly practical. So, stock up and let this ancient staple keep you fueled and ready for anything. 13. Bullion cubes. Let's face it, survival food can be bland. But that's where Bullion cubes come in. These little flavor bombs are a pantry essential for turning boring meals into something delicious. Whether you're making soup, stew, or rice, a Bullion cube can add a burst of flavor with minimal effort. Here's why they're so great. Bullion cubes have a shelf life of up to 2 years or longer if stored properly. They're lightweight, easy to store, and incredibly versatile. Use them to season meats, vegetables, or even pasta dishes. In a survival situation, they're a quick way to add depth and richness to your meals. But here's the kicker. Bullion cubes are also a great source of salt, which is essential for hydration and electrolyte balance. Just be mindful of the sodium content if you're watching your intake. Here's a fun fact. Bullion cubes were invented in the early 20th century as a convenient way to make broth. They quickly became a kitchen staple around the world. So, when you're using Bullion cubes, you're part of a culinary tradition that spans generations. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want to add flavor to your meals, Bullion cubes are a must-have. They're affordable, long-lasting, and incredibly versatile. So, stock up and let these flavor bombs elevate your survival cooking. 14. Dried corn. Corn might be best known for its summer barbecue fame, but dried corn is a survival essential. Whether it's whole kernels, cornmeal, or popcorn, dried corn is a versatile, long-lasting food that can keep you fueled in emergencies. Here's why it's so great. Dried corn has a shelf life of up to 10 years when stored properly. It's lightweight, easy to store, and packed with carbohydrates for energy. Use it to make cornbread, porridge, or even tortillas. And if you've got popcorn kernels, you can enjoy a comforting snack that feels like a treat. But dried corn isn't just about carbs, it's also a good source of fiber and vitamins like B6 and magnesium. Plus, it's incredibly versatile. Grind it into cornmeal for baking, or rehydrate it for soups and stews. In a survival situation, it's a sustainable food source that can be grown and replenished. Here's a fun fact. Corn has been a staple food in the Americas for thousands of years. Native Americans used it to make everything from bread to beer. So, when you're cooking with dried corn, you're connecting with a rich culinary history. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a versatile pantry staple, dried corn is a must-have. It's nutritious, long-lasting, and endlessly adaptable. So, stock up and let this humble grain fuel your survival journey. 15. White rice. Last but definitely not least, let's talk about white rice, the king of survival foods. It's cheap, easy to store, and has a shelf life of up to 30 years when stored properly. In fact, archaeologists have found rice in ancient tombs that's still edible. Talk about durability. Here's why white rice is a pantry essential. It's a high-calorie food that provides quick energy. It's also incredibly versatile. Use it as a base for stir-fries, soups, or even desserts. In a survival situation, it's a filling, comforting food that can keep you going for days. But here's the key. Store your rice in airtight containers or mylar bags with oxygen absorbers to keep out moisture and pests. And if you're feeling extra cautious, consider vacuum sealing it for maximum longevity. Here's a fun fact. Rice is the most widely consumed staple food in the world, feeding over half the global population. So, when you're cooking rice, you're part of a global tradition that spans cultures and centuries. Whether you're prepping for emergencies or just want a reliable pantry staple, white rice is a must-have. It's affordable, long-lasting, and endlessly versatile. So, stock up and let this humble grain be the foundation of your survival meals. Now that you know the 15 foods to stockpile that never expire, it's time to take action. Don't wait for an emergency to strike. Start building your survival pantry today. Whether it's a natural disaster, a power outage, or just a lazy day when you don't want to grocery shop, having these essentials on hand will give you peace of mind and keep you prepared for anything. Stay prepared, stay safe. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more tips on emergency preparedness, survival hacks, and practical advice. Because when it comes to being ready, there's no such thing as being too prepared. So, what are you waiting for? Start your stockpile today and take the first step toward being ready for anything.